Hello everybody, my name is Starrapter and I want to welcome you to another episode of This Week in Star Wars Canon. If you are new to the show, every week I go over everything new in the Star Wars universe that ties back into the movies. So this could be anything such as the comics, the video games, the TV series, and the novels. So this week I want to first start off by talking about Rebels Season 3 Episode 13 titled Warhead. Just a quick summary of what happened in the episode. This was a Zeb-centric episode, so Canon, Hera, Sabine, they went off on a mission of their own. They left Zeb in charge of Chopper Base, so he was basically dealing with a bunch of droids. He had to watch over AP5 as well as Chopper, but then what happens is the Empire sends out this kind of surveyor-type droid to the planet, and it's disguised as a protocol droid. Zeb finds this thing and quickly finds out with the help of Fulcrum, who is Callus, that this was actually a droid sent by the Empire. So most of the episode is trying to figure out how to get rid of this droid, because it does have a bomb on it that they have to get rid of, and the Empire would know if it's missing, if it gets destroyed. So they have to figure out what to do, and they send a droid back to the Empire, and it explodes, and it's a really satisfying explosion. So that was the episode. I'm going to get into my specific things that I really enjoyed about this episode. So first, right off the bat, guys, I want to just get this off my chest. So I know a lot about the people in the community are saying a lot of the episodes this season are filler, and I agree. Like the Wincanthu job was a terrible episode. It didn't really further the story of the Rebels. Now I heard some mixed things about this episode, but I want to say I really like this episode. It was a great episode. It wasn't filler. At first, it kind of feels like its own little standalone adventure, but then towards the end, when Thrawn is introduced and he finds out that now there's less of a threshold to finding these guys because they know that they sent a sentry out, it actually does fit into the larger picture of Rebels. That means Thrawn is getting closer to finding Rebels, and that's where it kind of bridges the gap between a filler episode and one that actually furthers the story. But there were a lot of other things to enjoy, just not that continuity part. First off, I like the whole Hoth feeling. It opens up with the shot of the Star Destroyer dispatching all those probes. Really cool. It's also like Zeb had to go out and find where this crash site was, so it kind of reminded me of like Han trying to find the escape pod. And I briefly talked about Callus. Now I'm really beginning to like this character Callus a hell of a lot more than I did before, just because it's a double agent in Star Wars, so it's something we haven't really seen too much of. And I really like the one part where Callus actually gives Zeb the information, and he sees the Star Destroyer blow up, and he knows that Zeb sent that droid back there to get it destroyed. And you see that little smirk on his face. I thought that was great. Something that I really liked was the Surveyor droid, how he was kind of like a Transformer. Again, I don't think this is something we've really seen in Star Wars too much, but that was really cool to me. Like, he had all those gadgets, like the way his head kind of split and was like these red eyes. It was really menacing. Something I want to talk about this episode that really hit me was the way that they got the concepts of Ralph McQuarrie all into one episode. Alright, so there's one of those first concept designs of Star Wars. The original Star Wars had this protocol droid similar to C-3PO, and that little R2 droid that basically is what Chopper is now. So they basically took those and put them in there, as well as Zeb, who originally was supposed to be Chewbacca. So this was a total throwback, and something that I really also enjoyed about this episode was just the amount of humor, and it was basically all from one person, not even a person, a droid. AP5, voiced by Steven Stanton. I gotta give him a lot of credit. The guy had such serious sick burns for Zeb, saying like, oh, you can think, oh, you have a plan. Like, man, I don't know how Zeb hasn't scrapped this droid by now, because I'll tell you, I'd be really pissed off with this thing constantly putting me down. Speaking of Zeb, great action sequences as well with him, with his Lasan bow rifle, turn it into the melee electro staff thing, fighting off against that Surveyor droid. That was definitely a highlight of the episode. And finally, I do want to go back and talk about Thrawn, about how this guy is slowly unraveling the whole plot of the Rebels, and now he's gonna he's gonna find them, and they're gonna have to move off the planet. I mean, it's gonna happen eventually. But yeah, guys, I really enjoyed this episode. I want to hear what you thought about it, though, so please feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section below. But that wasn't all we had in Star Wars canon this week. We also had Doctor Aphra number 3. So this is continuing the storyline where Doctor Aphra is being, put on this mission by her estranged father, and he's looking for this artifact, and they leave off on the planet Yavin 4, which has now been occupied by the Empire. So this issue is basically about Doctor Aphra and her father continuing to track down this special artifact, which we really don't know too much about it. Like last issue, we learned about the Order Respectu, which were these ancient force beings. So anyway, what happens in a nutshell in this issue is it's like a two-pronged approach. You have Black Kirstenton, who is diverting the attention of the Empire because they have that garrison there at that temple. It's the base one. It's the same place that the rebels had their fleet in A New Hope. So Black Kirstenton is proving a distraction, getting the troops away from there so that Aphra and her father could actually get inside of base 1 and start investigating. And basically they get a little further and they do end up discovering something, and it kind of leaves off from a cliffhanger. Alright, so I'm going to go into my positives of Doctor Aphra number 3. So first off, I really did like how we have the Empire on Yavin 4. I was kind of wondering what happened after the rebels left. Do the Imperials go there? So yes, it's pretty cool seeing how they're occupying that space with their hover tanks and their ATSTs and their AT-ATs. It's pretty cool. So something I really did enjoy too was that the knowledge of the Yavin base was really a kind of a mystery to the entire galaxy as a whole, and that just goes into showing how big this galaxy is. Not every citizen knows everything there is. Like the movies kind of portrayed it like, oh yeah, everybody knows about what happened, but even to people like Aphra's father, he didn't even know that the Death Star was a thing. Like he didn't know it got destroyed. Like it's really crazy how I guess the Empire can really just like keep things hush hush. And speaking of that, the connection to Rogue One here. So the father was talking about Jedha and about how he thought it was like some kind of mining disaster that destroyed the Kyber Tower. And that goes back into Rogue One, where Vader's telling Krennic like he's going to cover it up by saying it was kind of like some kind of accident. And apparently that worked. So it was news to her Aphra's father that it was actually the Death Star that did that. And she also broke the news to her father that she hung around Darth Vader a little bit. So there's a lot of stuff becoming transparent the more and more we get into these issues, exploring the relationship between her and her father, which is a very interesting one, because in Darth Vader we kind of knew that Aphra was kind of a bad person, but in this one, her father's even worse. Her father is just so greedy and centered, he's so centered on getting these artifacts. He doesn't care about the life of humanity or anything. Like, he just wants to get those artifacts. He doesn't care. Something I really did enjoy as well was Kirstenton, Black Kirstenton. This guy is an absolute badass. So like I said, he was being the distraction to Aphra, for Aphra and them to get in to basically get the Empire to try to get him. So he's doing these guerrilla tactics in the jungles of Yavin, just like sneaking up on the scout troopers, just taking them out on their speeder bikes. It's pretty cool. At one point there was an ATST that just kind of collapses because this like living tree thing, I guess, kind of hits it. And then he actually rips off the ATST's pintle mounted turret, and he just starts blasting away all these stormtroopers. So this guy, if he wasn't a badass already, he certainly is now. But yes, I really did enjoy this issue of Doctor Aphra. So that is going to do it for this week in Star Wars Canon. I want to thank you guys for watching, and may the Force be with you always. So did you like the video? Then make sure you rate it a thumbs up, and if you did that, go over there, hit that Starrapter head to subscribe to my channel. Doing so will keep you up to speed on all of my latest content, speaking of which you can see a couple of my recent uploads down below. I'm also on social media, so what are you waiting for? Let's start nerding out.